Hi, YouTuber that you don't remember subscribing to here. Just to jog your memory, you probably found me from a live stream with Sean Head or Bearing or someone, and I used to make videos along the same lines as those guys. Before I get into what is going to be basically just a ramble about, what it's like having cancer for the first month, an update on the GoFundMe and immigration stuff with my wife. We had the appointment with the immigration solicitor, and it basically went really well. We can go for a route that means that number one, she doesn't have to leave. She definitely doesn't have to leave, at least for the next 6 months. And we can go for a route that could possibly mean she could stay here for 5 years and then become a citizen afterwards, which is great. Just realised I get kind of out of breath while speaking more than I realised now that I can see it on a camera. But yeah, 5 years and that'd be great, but it's going to cost probably total about 5,000 because she's going to have to go back to America and legal shit. So the GoFundMe will, at the moment, is going to cover most of it, although further donations are appreciated. But the big thing is, we don't have to worry too much until at least, paying for it is going to be in about 5 months. So we've got 5 months. So, yeah, that's an update on that. But I just thought maybe I'd rant to a fucking camera about just fucking weird shit that is being diagnosed with cancer at the age of 20 when you're ridiculously fit and don't smoke and don't drink. All the doctors were very confused. Well, they weren't confused because it's a cancer that just fucking hits you. Just no reason, nobody knows why. And it's usually people about my age and usually dudes, which is weird. But, the timeline, I'll start from the beginning. A week before I went into the hospital, I was doing things like a 6-mile run. I think the week before I did a 6-mile run and felt, I feel a little bit more out of breath than usual. Well, that's weird. I've been having heartburn. What I thought was heartburn could have been heartburn symptoms, but I was fine. Nothing wrong with me. The next day, I think I did volume squats, not with a barbell. I wasn't that strong, but 80 kilograms for 5x5, which more than the average male maybe. And afterwards, I was a little bit more tired than usual. And then by Wednesday, the heartburn had just kept me up, so I rang and 111, the kind of non-emergency medical number, and they were like, you just go into a GP in the morning and they'll do some scans and they'll tell you what's up, and that's what I did. So in the morning I think it was a Wednesday, went into hospital on the Friday, went into the GP, and a general practitioner for you Americans, a doctor, and he just give a little tap on my backs and stuff, and yeah, you've got some fluid and probably a chest infection. Here's some antibiotics. Cool. The chest infection, not too bad. I was going to be going to the ADCC Open on Saturday, which is a grappling competition. I was going to be my first one, but I was that's not going to happen. But still going to go to Manchester to meet a friend there, so that would be cool. And then Thursday night, the kind of chest pain went away, and then turned into the heartburn kind of went away and turned into chesty. I was just that's probably not good. So we went to the hospital, and they did scans and shit, and they were big fucking growth about there, and you got loads of fluid and shit in your lungs. And I was and it didn't really register. It didn't quite register with me, growth. I was still thinking. I don't know. I was thinking still chest infection, I guess. But they kept me in the waiting room, actually, while in the ER I fainted. And they, I fully fucking fainted, collapsed. They got me on a bed in the hallway of the ER for about 45 minutes. So that was my recovery. And then they whacked me back into the ER. And I was waiting in the ER for about 16 hours total, going around the hospital doing various tests. Like, from going into the ER to getting onto our ward was 16 hours. So I was quite tired. And when I got to the ward, I just obviously slept, obviously. Well, I tried to. And the next day, they drained some shit out of my lungs, around my lungs, so I could actually breathe. Because at that point, even though a week before I'd done a 6-mile run and been fine, in the span of a week, or the span of a few days really seemed to build up, I could barely talk without getting incredibly out of breath. So they drained that away, and that's a recurring theme, them draining shit from around my lungs while I was in that hospital. And yeah, that kind of just limbo really, because when I went into hospital, it was a weekend, and they don't do anything on the weekend. And then on the Monday, I think on the Monday, that was when the doctor first came to me and was like, yeah, it's, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but it's probably cancer. And I was like, that's a shame. And then they did a biopsy on me, where they, just a little one, where they kind of just prod in and try to take a little bit of the cells. And they actually had some trouble pushing through because I had quite a lot of muscle there. Newsflash, it's all gone by now. All of it. It sucks. When I first went into hospital and I realised shit was going to get bad, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh fuck, I actually look pretty good. Like, I wasn't fucking, I spent all my time, loads of time around the gym, so I'd see other people who were properly, like, I never took it insanely seriously. But I look better than the average man. I just looked in the mirror like, yeah, I never appreciate it. Never, like, when my family would be like, oh, you're looking really good, I'd be like, nah, not really. But, no. If you do currently look quite good, appreciate it, because it can go really quick. Because now I look and like my shoulders are just gone. Not everything's gone. Torso, not as bad actually. I've gained a bunch of weight since I got back from the hospital, just eating. But yeah, everything else is just like gone. But yeah, they did a biopsy and they can't confirm, but they're like, yeah, cancer. But we have to do a second one. So a few weeks later, they did a proper, I probably won't show it, but I've got a big scar here from where they did the second biopsy. And they were, that sucked because that was an operation. And, they put you under and everything. And the worst thing about it was they had to inflate my lungs as it goes on. So they put a tube down your throat to inflate your lungs. When you wake up in the hospital bed with all the fucking shit plugged into you, I also had the dangly thing in the back of your throat, the uvula, was fucking swollen to shit. Like, I looked in the mirror and I was like, is it usually that big? Yeah, and every time I like cough, which was often because they'd just put a fucking tube down my throat, it would move the uvula and cause me to gag. So that the few days after the operation was just me coughing, gagging, and fucking threw up a few times just from gagging. And eating was fucking eating when your fucking uvula is fucking swollen. It's fucking... I'm probably only alive right now because of my mum bringing me in food. Because the hospital food, not only am I a vegetarian, so there's much, even though obviously I'm not gonna starve myself because there's no vegetarian options. There were vegetarian options, they were just shit. Everything was shit. They also give you so little food that like the fucking advice is to eat as much as possible so you can have enough energy to fight off or whatever the fuck you've got. But then they give you almost fucking nothing and it's almost inedible. But my mum brought me in food and she's the best cook on the planet, so that's why I'm still alive. But yeah, the fucking few days of coughing and gagging and barely being able to eat and and that was after surgery, so you'd stay in a surgical ward, so you'd have just more people, more shit plugged into you, more people keep an eye on you. That sucked. But then they moved me back to the old ward, and the ward that they initially put me in was a lung ward, even though my shit isn't to do with lungs, but I kept having fluid in my lungs, so that's why they put me there. And it was full of old people, and some of them weren't all there. So at night, there'll be a lot of screaming, or just fucking loud talking to themselves, and and in a hospital, the lights were always on, and the beds were horrible and everything, and so I didn't really sleep consistently more than like 3 hours for about the month that I spent in that hospital, which came to make things worse later on when it gets all so much weirder and worse. And this is actually because I started chemo and I've almost done like a month, and the first month is the okay part, and it gets, I still got my hair and shit, it gets much worse apparently, at least tiredness wise, and throwing up wise. I haven't really thrown up. But yeah, spent a month in that hospital, and then they moved me to a specialized cancer ward for young people, and that was a lot nicer. There were no screaming fucking old people, and you had a PlayStation 4 on every bed with a TV. I spent there about 2 weeks, and honestly, it wasn't like the worst parts of all of this. Actually, I forgot to mention was because I had shit building up in my lungs. I'd have a chest drain. They fucking stuck in here. I've still got scars from it, obviously. The first one was right after the surgery. So right after the surgery, you wake up and you've got a fucking drain stuck in you, a little box that you have to carry everywhere, draining shit from around your lungs so you can breathe. And then they took that out maybe a week later, like, oh, it's not draining much, it doesn't matter, take it out. And then a few days later, on New Year's Eve, I believe, they were like, no, we're gonna have to put another one in. And the other one they put in, because the first one was put under surgery, the second one was just put in. Horrifying pain for the whole of New Year's Eve. My fucking wife was there crying next to me because she could fucking, I was there fucking, doctor's words, I've got a really high tolerance for like pain and shit like that. But not that. I was there crying a lot because of that fucking horrific shit that they stuck into my side. And they gave me full-on IV morphine. Like, they were like, okay, this is just the most we can give you. Like, you pumped it in, and didn't work. Like, and it's not even like opiates never work on me. Like, codeine and shit can sometimes. Like, just nothing. Just that specific pain just didn't go away. That lasted like a day. But it meant that they put me in a private room, so during like New Year's Day and Christmas and shit, I was in a private room so my family could visit me better, so at least there's that. Well, this is fucking ranting on video. But yeah. So, but obviously in the new ward, it wasn't too bad. It still had a chest drain in, but they took that out after a few days. So I was there, and it was nothing really much happened there. I was just kind of existing until they let me go. And then once they let me out of hospital, I was still on steroids, and steroids are the king of this story, the most interesting part, because they fucked me up real bad. Like, well, I got out of hospital, and you're happy to be out of hospital and everything, but so they released me from hospital, and that day we go out to the fucking restaurants and shit, and it's nice, get to celebrate, oh shit, he's still got cancer, but at least he's out of the hospital. And I felt, they released me when I still wasn't feeling that great, but I felt fucking happy to be out, obviously. But I still didn't sleep very much. First few days I still didn't sleep, and a few days after getting home is when I created the Kickstarter, the GoFundMe, which, you know, still is a great idea, but I still wasn't sleeping. And after I made that, I think due to just the stress of everything and also steroids, I just stopped sleeping. Like, I must have been sleeping a tiny bit, but on Thursday night, it didn't seem like I slept at all. But when I woke up, I wasn't that tired. So I was like, And then that happened again. Friday night, I didn't feel like I slept. I never felt like I woke up. But in the morning, I wasn't that tired. So I was like, you know, I'll just roll with it. And then it happened again. Like, really didn't feel like I slept. But I felt more awake than the day before. And really happy. I just kept myself happy. Like, I was feeling, you know, I didn't sleep at all, but I feel great, so... they say, you know, anything weird happens, ring the fucking, the hospital, so I did. I rang the people, the ward I'm treated on, and they were just like, well, if you hadn't slept, because I rang them when I hadn't felt like I slept for 72 hours. They agreed with me, like, well, if you must be sleeping, because if you hadn't for 72 hours, then you'd be way more tired than you are now. And I was like, yeah, so, you know, I've got an appointment scheduled on Tuesday, and this was like Sunday or something. I was like, oh, they'll just come in then. And then, you know, Monday morning, I hadn't felt like I'd slept at all, but I was still alert. And honestly, fucking, turns out if I felt myself that I was acting pretty normal, but everyone has informed me that I was basically bouncing off the fucking walls. So Monday, you know, pretty fucking manic, but I thought I was holding it together. And then Tuesday comes around, and that night I basically hadn't slept. Well, it still didn't feel like I'd slept. Which means that not feeling like I went to sleep lasted, I believe, about 120 hours. So basically 120 hours of straight consciousness. And my thought was just like, I must be sleeping, because otherwise, like, it's not like steroids are so strong that they could keep me up that long on almost no sleep and keep me fucking manic. There's no way they're that strong. I'm not taking that many, am I? I was, because I went in on Tuesday, and basically, I was going to have some chemo, but first they were going to, they take you into a room and say, oh, how have you been feeling? And the question, how have you been feeling, was too much. Because I tried to explain, I'm actually really good, but and that turned into about a 5-minute, you could call it a breakdown. You could call it me screaming for 5 minutes, but yeah, I screamed about many things. At one point, I believe I screamed, "I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die!" And then said, "Actually, no, I'm probably not gonna die because this specific kind of cancer has this fucking." So the whole time I'd been trying to like keep myself happy by just like telling myself that I'm probably not gonna die and I'm feeling good now, so whatever. Which is still kind of basically where I am now. Like, I'm not worrying about the future. Like, I'm fine now, probably be fine tomorrow, so fuck it. But yeah, it wasn't working then. Screamed out, I'm gonna die, and then, no, I'm not gonna die. At one point, I screamed about how much I love my wife, and that's really gay. But I also said really dumb shit, like, I feel so good that I could feel like I could open that window and fly through the clouds. But I stopped at open that window because even in my manic state, I was like, that sounds suicidal. But I stopped to open the window, so they thought I was a little bit suicidal. But I spoke to a shrink, and he was basically like, "You're normal, but have cancer and stress." So, but it also said that, like, this must be a normal thing to happen, otherwise you'd run away because you'd be afraid I'm gonna punch you or something like that. And when I was thinking that I was completely fucking just normal, but everything I said was fucking weird, obviously. So yeah, that happened, and afterwards I was like, yeah, I know I'm gonna have to stay in, like, overnight, and you're gonna have to check me and shit. And the nurses, I think, were still in the let's keep him calm, and they were like, oh no, you can still probably go home. And I was just sat there like, I'm not retarded. I said, I was just like, oh really, okay. But I was in my head like, I'm not fucking retarded. And then like an hour later, the doctor came in and said, yeah, we're gonna have to keep you in. And they did loads of scans on me. They checked my brain. They did an MRI, and they knew, oh, it's the steroids, and it was the steroids. But it gets worse and weirder, and this video has gone on for 21 minutes, and hopefully I can edit it down enough that people get to this point, because this is definitely the weirdest point, because they took me off the steroids obviously after I had the breakdown. But when the shrink was like, he's fine, and steroids are an incredibly important part of my treatment. So the day afterwards, they had done loads of tests and stuff in the, after in the morning and the afternoon, so they didn't have much time. But they were like, he seems better. And because they hadn't given me the steroids, I was feeling better. Let's give him a half dose of steroids to see what would happen, basically. And they gave me that at like 5 p.m. And you're never supposed to take steroids after like midday. But clearly, I don't blame doctors or anything. And yeah, I took steroids, and mum and dad left. Mum and wife, yeah, left, and I started feeling, like I was on steroids again. But I kind of knew how they were affecting me. So when speaking to I was dealing with it. And I was, about to be going to bed. They gave me some diazepam to help me get to sleep. And then at one point while trying to sleep, and it's all very difficult to remember properly, but I believe it started with me thinking, I might have the cure for cancer, and the way I'm going to have to start is I'm going to have to get out of this bed and walk into like the nurse's office, or where all the nurses were, and just have a look at the clock. So I did. And then in my head, I thought I was saying, I'm sorry, I know this is weird, but in my head I think I've got a cure for cancer, and I just have to do this. Turns out I wasn't saying anything. I was just at some points I started saying stuff, but for the first bit of this, spoiler, steroid-induced psychosis, for the first portion of it, a lot of it was completely blanked out. Like, one of the things that confused me, because I was convinced that this was the weirdest thing that's ever happened. At no point did I think, actually, no, this is kind of what just drugs do to people sometimes. I thought this was, so weird that I must be dead. For the first portion of it, a lot of it was blanked out and just gone. So time was moving fucking weird. But for the first portion, and this is, it's almost funny, but it stops being funny because I was only conscious, but still can control myself. For one of these, I pulled a nurse's hair, I punched one of them, and I strangled one of them, and I punched a security guard. And when they told me that afterwards, I was like, I do MMA and shit, but I'm the least fucking violent person on the planet. Like, when it sounds contradictory, but if I drop someone with a liver shot and I'm like, fuck, sorry, are you okay? But yeah, that happened, and the first portion, I believe I was in the ward and thinking that I was in hell. and they were demons or something. And then eventually I sat down on a chair, and I was like, okay. And then I went back into back to my bed and found my phone, because one thing I'd been doing is writing out my thoughts on my phone, because writing it down was easier than getting it out in words. And then I started typing my thoughts. I started typing, I need to accept that I don't have the cure for cancer. This is just a coping mechanism, and J. I just started typing J into my phone, as you do. And I was watching myself do this and thinking, oh fuck, yeah, I'm dead. I'm deceased. I've ceased to be. I'm an ex-Chris. And then it goes weird, but I think what happened at that point was I thought in my head that for some reason I thought I'm gonna get an answer to one thing, one question. And I spoke to a mental health nurse afterwards, and it's probably just everybody like thinks about mortality and shit like that. But how it manifested in my head was I'm gonna get one question, I'm gonna answer the one question, and I need to think about what is the most important question. What question has the most important consequences? And I thought I was maybe when I'm gonna die, but then if I get the answer 90, then that means for the rest of my life I can just be like, shit, I'm gonna die at 90, that's fine, let's go. But if it says like fucking 22, then it's just gonna ruin the next bit of my life. So I was like, okay, biggest consequences. Like it's weird because I'm pretty sure I already thought I was dead at this point, but still, maybe if I was alive, I don't know. It's hard to explain because it was very strange at the time, and still is. Hence, just ranty fucking pointless video that nobody's gonna watch. But I thought, okay, I need to know, is there a God? And I got the answer, and the answer in my head at that point was yes. And it's the 100% literal Bible, Old Testament, everything fucking, I think even my head, like the fucking Dante's Inferno fucking whole fucking shit, like all the fan fiction, everything, just 100%. If you do not follow everything that's said in the Bible, he will fuck you up. God is true. Like, not the one that most people believe in. The one that's maybe, does anyone believe in that? But me at the time. And so I thought, for a second I thought, because, God real. I'm going to experience heaven at some point. That's going to be crazy. And then I quickly realized, I'm an edgy atheist. Well, not edgy anymore, I don't give a fuck. But I don't give a fuck, but I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And I thought, so hell for eternity. And at that point the nurses were still around me because I was sat in my bed, but they were still making sure I was okay. But I'm sure they were saying nice things, but to me, once I'd realised I'm going to hell, the nurses all started going, yeah, you've worked that one out. And then I immediately started trying to work out how on earth it's logically possible that all this could be happening and that hell could exist and go on for eternity. And I was thinking, maybe the universe is just that big that eternity. But I came to the conclusion that the answer to God and just everything, the universe, was it's just that simple. That's the answer. It's just that simple. And my logic was, well, if you're arguing with someone and they say, well, the answer is it's just that simple, and you say, well, no, that can't be the answer, that just because that's You know, and then all they have to say is just as simple. And I couldn't think of anything simpler than that. And in my brain at the time, the simplest answer must have mean that it's just the right answer. And I was just there thinking, oh, wow, can't believe I didn't think of this. It's so obvious. And I spent the next I have no idea how long, wandering around the ward, up to security guards and stuff. They were very nice, even though I had punched one of them earlier, apparently. And they were just like, but at that point I could control myself. So I was kind of thinking, you know, if this is still normal, I should not do anything like go up to security guards and let's treat this as if I'm dead and this is terrible, but also just in case, let's not do anything too weird and stupid. But in my head I was also trying to think that at one point I thought if I were to never think it's just that simple again, then it would all stop or something. But at that point they had rang up, my family had started trying to ring me, and for some reason I decided it's a terrible idea to talk to them. But I thought, okay, my brother was on the phone. I kind of got up and spoke to him and was like, the first thing I said was, because even though I was completely fucking mental, I thought I don't want to worry my family too much. So I said, hi, I'm not going to die. I know I'm probably not going to die. But, and for some reason in my fucking head, I thought doing the simplest thing or something, if I did the simplest thing, that meant that I would continue to die or some shit. So I was on the phone and said, I don't want to, I'm not going to die, and tried to reassure them. But then I said, but I think I have to hang up. And my fucking brother, who was on the phone, poor fucking him, who had just been told by the nurse, by the hospital, that I had a fucking breakdown and punched a fucking nurse, was obviously saying, no, don't hang up, but in a very, very nice way. You know, don't hang up, and I just which was a terrible idea. If I'd continued speaking to him, maybe it would have shortened the time that it took to me realizing, because I slowly started realizing that actually this is not the weirdest thing to happen on the planet, and I'm just on lots of drugs. I slowly got back into my bed and was like, okay. And then my mum and dad came over, mum and wife came over the night, and I still was fucking hearing shit overnight because of steroids, but she was there, so it kind of helped. But yeah, for about 15 minutes, I just thought I was dead in hell. I'd worked out the meaning to life, and it's just that simple. And, you know, it was terrifying, but because the steroids had fucked me up so much, one of the things I was saying to them was, one of the things I thought was, oh, hell must be just this for eternity. I was thinking and saying, oh, I don't feel that bad, so, you know, maybe this isn't too bad. And, you know, the nurses in my head were saying, no, it really is that bad. And at some points I was thought I'd, like, close my eyes and then suddenly I'd be in, like, there'd be, I think, mountains of lava firing out of my ass is one of the things I thought. But yeah, because the steroids were fucking me up so much, I couldn't process the fear, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, since then, they reduced some steroids and gave me a bunch of other stuff. So I can actually sleep. So since then, I've been alright. Finished with my wife, friends came over last few days, that was cool, really good. So yeah, that's I completely ramble probably. I'm still on drugs, but the only way I can, because I was fucking whacked out for like 5 days, the only way I can tell if I'm normal at the moment is by asking my wife if I'm acting normal. But I feel pretty normal, so. But yeah, that's That's the first almost month, which is supposed to be like, yeah, you'll feel mostly like yourself. But I didn't, because steroids affect me really badly. Doctor said, some people just get fucked up by steroids. And I had extra stress from attempting to keep my fucking wife here. But you know, I'd like to say worst part's over, but I mean, chemo gets way worse. But, you know, one of the things is the chemo, you know, you'd be so tired you can't leave your bed. I have already, you know, some days in that hospital I was too tired to basically say anything for the entire day, and I had a chest drain fucking stuck in me, so I could barely move. So, fucking, what can chemo do to me that hasn't already happened? Staying positive. I'll watch this and see if I can edit it down a little bit and see if I still want to post it, I guess. If you actually watch the end. I don't know. Donate to the GoFundMe so I can make myself feel slightly happier by rolling in money. I don't know. If you donate a few mil, if you nobody on minimum wage or low income or something, fucking don't feel the need to fucking donate any of the fucking money. If nobody donates any more, then we'll still, you know, it won't be great, but we'll manage because we've got time and shit. But, you know, it would be helpful. Yeah, bye. Cancer's bad. Oh.